Hey there, I'm Trevor Ingman, and I'm here with Camden Smith, who has recently taken the GRE at home. I know that's something that a lot of you are curious about, and lucky for us, Camden has graciously agreed to share his experience with us. So thanks for meeting up today, Camden.
Yeah, no problem.
So first question, just what was your reason to take the GRE at home?
So I needed to take the GRE before the first week of May, and I originally had a GRE scheduled at one of the testing centers. And then when the COVID pandemic hit, I was waiting to see if ETS was going to offer a at-home or online version. And when they did, I looked at times. They were pretty flexible. I was on the West Coast, and so then I scheduled the test at home and was able to cancel the in-person test. And I basically was able to get the same date and the same time.
And what was your reason for taking the GRE in the first place?
So I'm applying to a couple MBA programs, and I applied for the second round at these programs for spring deadline, and I wanted to resubmit a better GRE score.
How did you feel about switching to an at-home test?
I had done some research before about the at-home test through a couple of different websites, Reddit and Poets and Quants, where there were some people that wrote blogs about their experience. And so I had heard mixed things, honestly, and I was somewhat concerned just because going into the GRE and having done it in person, I know that there's a lot of emotion, a lot of nerves and anxiety. So if you have the added unknowns of kind of like the technical issues that could arise, I was worried that would produce added stress. But honestly, the experience for me was really seamless. I was able to get a computer, test everything, and then actually do the test with no issues whatsoever. So for me, it went really well.
So you were a little bit concerned for a bit about technical issues that might come up and things like that, though, huh?
Right, because from what I read, the actual process itself is the ETS it's sanctioning the test, and they're the ones that have written it. But Proctor U, which some students may be familiar with just doing online tests through a graduate or undergrad program, they are the ones actually administering the test online or at home. So if there's a problem with the test or a problem with Proctor U, I read in the past that it was difficult to get a hold of someone in order to troubleshoot it. But yeah, my experience was like I said, pretty easy. I connected with the proctor. I didn't actually see the proctor, but they were connected to my computer and watching me. And besides the actual instructions and going through kind of what the process is going to be in the beginning, I really had no interaction with the proctor. It was easy. The Proctor U process was easy. And I was able to kind of follow the directions that they sent me prior to getting the test started, which made me more comfortable with the how things were going to go.
So did you need any special equipment?
I did. So I have an Apple computer. I needed to buy a PC. And my plan was to buy a PC online, some low cost computer, and then return it, which I did. And that process was easy as well. I know a lot of places have extended their return windows because of the COVID pandemic. So I bought a computer, I set everything up, and then also the only other thing I had to buy was a whiteboard. I never actually showed the whiteboard to the proctor, and the proctor never asked me what I was taking notes on, which I found interesting. But the ETS rules say it has to be on a whiteboard or some sort of paper that can be cleared off, and you can use an expo marker. You can't take notes with pen or pencil because they don't want you to keep your work. Just as like the in-person test, they'll take all of your scratch paper. And so those are the two things I needed to buy, special equipment, a whiteboard, and which I got on Amazon, and then a computer. That was a PC. And the reason for that PC is because the ETS software is only compatible with it.
I imagine, of course, that computer had a webcam, but did it have any kind of special webcam? Was there anything special about it?
No, that was another thing I needed to look into, whether I needed to get a webcam that could rotate 360 degrees. But any computer with the built-in webcam is fine, and the proctor will just ask you to rotate your computer 360 degrees and pause, so it can take like a shot of I think 8 frames it needs to see what your surroundings are. So any standard PC computer will do the job.
And what was it like to interact with the proctor?
Pretty simple, I guess. I was anticipating being able to see the proctor and having a conversation verbally, but once you get connected on ProctorU, a chat box pops up and they kind of give generic directions, probably copy and paste directions on what to do and letting you know that they'll take control of your computer. So once you get into ProctorU and everything, and they do a test of your system, and you get connected to your proctor, he'll actually open up the ETS website, or he'll open up the ETS test in the software on your desktop, and he'll put in a certain passcode, and the test will pop up. And once that happens, you really don't have any interaction with the proctor again. My only concern throughout the test was once the test popped up, it popped up into a full screen window and I wasn't able to see the chat box and to see if the proctor was trying to contact me. So I was kind of able to hit like the Windows key that I was able to get both the chat box and the test. So I could see if he was trying to contact me, or for the 10-minute break, I hit that button and was able to just let him know that I was going to get up and use the restroom, which I knew was allowed by the rules, but I just wanted to communicate with him. I also read that during that 10-minute break, some people had issues with their test timing out and not being able to get a hold of the proctor. So I was pretty conscious of just making sure my computer didn't go to sleep and that I went over to the mouse and wiggled it every so often, because most of the research I had done about the test was the area where they had technical difficulty.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning that. Are you allowed to leave the room during the test or during the breaks?
You're allowed to leave the room only during the 10-minute break, and the advice I would give people is just treat it as if you're going into a testing center to take it. So you can't have water, you can't have food. The same exact rules apply even during the 60-second break. In between the sections, you still can't get up and use the restroom. So yeah, 10-minute break is same rules as the in-person places where you can get food, you can get water, use the restroom. But besides that, you're supposed to be at the computer.
Were you allowed to have food or drinks?
You can only get the food or drinks at the 10-minute break, the big break. So no water. And I've also read that depending on the proctor, some are more lenient than others. But what I did not want to have happen was I did well and my tests get voided because I broke one of the rules. And I know the proctor there is watching you, but ETS, I'm sure, also has some sort of process of reviewing the footage that they record during the test. And if there's any abnormalities or anything like any rules you broke, then I think you could potentially lose your score. So,
did the pacing of the test change at all from the in-person test?
No, it was very similar. The actual screen itself was the same as taking it in person. The timing and the pacing of everything was the same. The only recommendation I would have for getting comfortable with the at-home online test would be to practice with a whiteboard. I bought a couple of small whiteboards that you would see at like an elementary school or something, just off Amazon. And so I found that to be helpful. I had enough space where I could do math problems, a bunch of them. So if I needed to come back, I could leave my work there and not have to erase it. But again, like, the proctor never saw my whiteboard, so I don't know, you could get a bigger one if you wanted. But it was a little bit different than doing it on a piece of paper like I had done with all my practice problems. So that's another big piece of advice I would give is practice with the whiteboard. Also, just open up your computer and maybe do some practice problems if you have material, just to get comfortable with using it and navigating through different problems.
What materials did you use to study?
I used primarily ETS, the purple book as I called it. I also had another old ETS PDF called the Big Book that has like over 20 practice tests. And I found that using ETS specific problems were they closest to the in-test problems. I also had used earlier Kaplan for a little bit, and I did find that there was a slight discrepancy in some of the problems, although pretty close. And I think if you use one of those testing services, it'll get you 95% of the way there. But I think using the actual ETS problems, there's enough of them between that PDF I have and also buying the Kindle version on Amazon, which was pretty inexpensive, would get you the testing questions from the test maker themselves. So I found that to be the most effective material.
Do you have any recommendations for people who may take the GRE at home soon?
Another recommendation would be just to get comfortable and give yourself time on test day. I think so long as you're comfortable with the equipment, so your computer and using the whiteboard, then it's probably a benefit to take it at home because you don't have the added stress of having to drive in and be in some unknown location with a bunch of people around you taking a test as well. So yeah, if you're comfortable with your equipment and also you find a good spot at home, and I know it can be hard with COVID, then I actually think it's a benefit to be able to take it at home. It's more comfortable. Just like me, I presume a lot of people are taking it where they've been doing practice problems. So you kind of have like the home field advantage. Something that I haven't mentioned as well is ProctorU. Once you get an email from them a couple days before the test, you log in and you have the ability to test your computer to make sure it's compatible in all of the areas that it tests before test day itself. So you know that if that spot is, so I think the criteria is the lighting, the volume, or the sounds around you. They want to make sure it's quiet enough so there's not some background noises where someone could potentially be like feeding you information. They want to make sure that you have strong enough Wi-Fi and your camera works. There may be one others, but those are the main ones. And I highly suggest, as part of making sure your equipment works and being comfortable on test day and not having to worry about technical issues, going through and it'll just check your system. And yeah, I had one issue with one of those criteria. I was able to just restart the browser and it worked. So yeah, before test day, make sure everything works, and then once you have to log on and you get connected, you'll be fine, and the proctor will just open up the exam and you'll start.
What did you enjoy about the experience of taking the GRE at home?
I would say the convenience, honestly. I mean, it is more convenient to do something in your house opposed to going to a centralized location. After kind of getting over the nerves of whether it's going to work or not, which I think I was able to subdue based off of a couple of days before, making sure my equipment worked, the convenience of taking it at home and being finished and being at home as well, not having to drive anywhere. That's what I enjoyed the most.
Is there anything that you didn't like about taking the GRE at home?
The one thing that I've alluded to before, the fact that there's ProctorU and ETS, if there was a technical issue and I got disconnected from my proctor, I would have no idea really what to do and who to contact other than go onto ProctorU, their website. And I think it could have been one of those situations where ProctorU is telling me to contact ETS is telling me to contact ProctorU. That's some speculation, but I just know from reading that when technical issues have arose, that there was issues troubleshooting them. So at an in-testing center or in-person testing center, there's people that work there that are skilled to be able to help you with those technical issues, and they can restart the test if need be. So that was my only concern, which luckily I did not have to deal with.
Well, that's all the questions I have. Do you have anything else that you want to comment on?
No, I think I talked through everything. I guess I can summarize quickly for the equipment, a PC with any sort of standard webcam is fine. You also want to make sure you get a whiteboard that you can buy on Amazon. And then for the actual preparation for the test of opening up your PC and making sure your computer is compatible with ProctorU, which you can do easily based off a link they send you. And then, yeah, from there, honestly, once you have the preparation complete, the test day experience is actually pretty easy. For all those students out there that are, whether they're taking the GRE or another standardized test, good luck. And I hope the experience was as easy as mine.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for your time, Camden. This has been great. I think I've certainly found it informative, and I think a lot of people are really going to enjoy getting a little bit of a peek into the at-home GRE test-taking experience.
Yeah, no problem. And hopefully I was able to summarize. There's a lot of information out there, so I think hopefully my experience people can learn from and have a seamless testing day and hit that score or exceed expectations.